All right, everyone, welcome to another live stream. This is where we react to global events, global headlines across the world. Now, there are various media platforms that we choose. The topmost platform that we choose for our information source is All India Radio. That is their page, their page on X, their own website that they have. Another media platform that we regularly choose to get our primary information from is Reuters, the Reuters website. It's a very beautiful website. If you open it, it gives you events that are very nicely organized and segregated into different parts. Like, let's say, information from the Asian subcontinent. So there is a separate option available to view the information for Asia. Okay. So that is number one. Number two, number three actually is the Associated Press and the Interfax agency of Russia, that is counter to the Reuters website. That is also one of it. Uh, okay, so we start today with something very interesting, I would say, because the the weather these days is turning out to be slightly more on the cooler side. It's nice to have some cool and pleasant weather after all the you know all the heat that we have had to go through in this summer. This summer has been pretty intense. If you know look at the temperature variation, the minimum temperature, I guess, across the entire subcontinent was somewhere close to 45, 46. There are places where mercury has touched 50 as well. And yep, so it's nice to have some rains, some respite from the heat as well. All right, start with. mm, Let me just pull up. Yep. Uh, all right. Let's see if you know. Wait a second. Wait a second. Wait. 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 Yep. Now let me try something. Yesterday I tried this, but I guess in between the stream, the video vanished somewhere, and I could not. Yeah. So yeah, this is the video that is put out by the Russian embassy in South Africa. We have covered this in our previous live streams that Putin has been visiting North Korea. He had also met his father, the King Jong Un's father, uh, 20 years ago when he was visiting in the year of 2000. And we have seen this, that Russia, who is trying to escape the clause of the sanctions by the West, is looking for allies in the Asian subcontinent. And the importance of this can be highlighted from the fact that we've also seen Zelensky. Zelensky has approached many of the leaders from this part of the world, be it Narendra Modi on the sidelines of G7, even the Saudi Crown Prince, who is how do Asian nations rally behind the cause? Because that's exactly what they're trying to do. They both leaders, Putin and Zelensky, both of them know that the entire Europe and the West is a played out field. Their countries have chosen their clear sides, and nobody is budging from their position. So clearly, they have realized that the next battlefield for geopolitical maneuvering is Asia, Southeast Asia, and China, for that matter. Yep. So, and there are also some Let me. Yep. Okay. Okay. So there are also some of the agreements that they both have signed, I would say. Yep. So this is a. Let me just present it. So this is a. Okay. This video from the ceremony where he was bid farewell. You can see that the uh, North Korean supreme leader, I would say, supreme leader, he could be seen bidding farewell to the Russian president. There, they have signed agreements based on military cooperation and defense, some sort on the lines of if any of the territory is attacked by any of the foreign nations. So Russia will come to the aid of North Korea. That's the crux of the deal that they both have signed. And yep. So I think it would be interesting to see how all of this pans out, because even Zelensky has made a Europe Asian tour with no holds barred. He has approached many leaders from the Asian countries to attend the peace conference that was held in Lucerne in Switzerland. It will be interesting to see how the what is the future outcome of such engagements that both the leaders are taking. In a sense, they are rallying countries to their side. Yeah, so keep in mind, Putin, from here onwards, he is visiting Vietnam. Vietnam is another communist country in this part of the world. And very recently, there are rumors that there is some rift between the leadership of Vietnam and leadership of United States. So it takes no rocket scientist or an geopolitical expert to understand that if there is a country that is rifting away from the United States or the Western leaders, where will that leader go towards, or towards which country will that leader lean? Yeah, so Vietnam is also leaning towards the Russian leadership, that is Vladimir Putin. It would be interesting to see really how what is the future course of international geopolitics in this part of the world. Next up, you'll have to see this video. It's very interesting, and I will highlight the underlying point when you guys have seen this. Wait, let me just put it up on the screen. We will see this. Okay.
This bill mandates the display of the Ten Commandments in every classroom in public, elementary, secondary, and post-education schools in the state of Louisiana. Because if you want to respect the rule of law, you got to start from the original lawgiver, which was Moses. Amen. All right.
God gave Moses received.
That's right. He got his commandments from God, and he wrote them off us. All right. This bill mandates.
Okay, yes. When in one of our previous videos, you could have seen that we have covered this headline that in one of the schools of the United States, rainbow posters that are symbolic of the LGBTQ community, and students from a very early age are being, you know, I would use the word indoctrinated, because I think it is somewhat of a somewhat of an impediment to their overall character and personality development. Because if you uh, if you teach them these things at a later age, I would say that is more rational. But if you are teaching these things from an early age, there is a clear agenda over here that when they are young, they cannot make their own decisions, so you're influencing that decision. So I would say that the people in the United States who are more hell bent on gender politics and all these sexual orientation politics, I would say you wait for them to grow to a certain age that they can make their own decisions. Why impose such an ideology at a very young and a tender age when they are obviously very impressionable? Yeah, so this is a video from the state of Louisiana. The state of Louisiana, this is the governor. Uh, he has mandated that you are supposed to display the 10 commandments from Moses. The 10 commandments from Moses, and yeah, you're supposed to display that in the school. So clearly there is this recognition that United States displays, and there is something that we need to learn from them is their outward and outward unabashed adoption and acknowledgement that their entire politics is based on the Judeo-Christian principles. Here we are even scared of adopting and acknowledging that yes, our politics and our all the major decisions should be based on our own cultural principles. There we are being instructed on a day-to-day basis about how you should adhere to the principles of the West. But that is again a video for a different discussion for a different video. But the point that I'm trying here to make is they are very much convinced, okay, that Moses was the original lawgiver. So yeah, Moses is one of the prophets who was sent by God with a message for the humanity. That is what they believe, and it is a Christian belief. Okay, it's a Judeo-Christian belief, an Orthodox Christian belief, and they are not ashamed to adopt it and let it influence their policy decisions, let it influence their future. So yeah, there are some lessons to be taken from the United States, and this is one of them. So the schools in Louisiana will display, commandments from the Moses. Interesting to see. Next up, there is this JNK police. JNK police has apprehended one of the perpetrators of the Riasi attack. He has not exactly a perpetrator, but somebody who was aiding and abetting people who were perpetrators. And let's listen to the statement that is given by the superintendent of police over there. And let's first listen to the statement that the superintendent over here is giving. I hope this is visible to all the viewers. Wait a second, let me just do it again.
ये अरेस्ट जो की गई है इसका नाम हाकम दीन है। ये बंदराही इलाका जो कि रजौरी में पड़ता है, वहां से इसको अरेस्ट किया गया है और इसने उन आतंकियों को पनाह देने का काम किया, खाना देने का काम किया और उनके गाइड का काम किया। ये उनको स्पॉट पे लेकर आया, उनको जंगल के रास्ता वो वाला इसने जान के चूज किया जहां से ये सीसीटीवी की कवरेज अवॉइड कर सके। और जब वो इंसिडेंट को अंजाम दे रहे थे उस वक्त भी ये वहीं पे खड़ा हुआ था और उसके बाद उनको वहां से निकालने के लिए भी इसने पूरी मदद की है।
मैम अभी तक कुल कितने लोगों को जो अटैक हुआ इसमें अरेस्ट किया गया, डिटेन किया गया?
ये पहला अरेस्ट है। जहाँ तक डिटेंशन की बात है, अप्रोक्सीमेटली 125 पीपल हैव बीन डिटेन्ड फॉर क्वेश्चनिंग, बट ये जो है हमारा पहला अरेस्ट है।
हम जम्मू कश्मीर में देखा
Was orchestrated to attack the pilgrims that were you know going towards a temple over there. And we all know what happened in Rios. And if you don't, I would really urge you to just go on any of the news media website and find out what happened over there. But the whole and soul of the matter is somebody has been apprehended, one terror associate, namely Hakam. He's a 45 years of age. He has been arrested. This person was involved in harboring terrorists multiple times. Now, the point that I want to highlight over here is if somebody from the Union Territory of JNK has been accused or has been involved in harboring terrorists multiple times, why exactly was he out, among the civilians? Why was he given civil freedoms if he had been involved in harboring terrorists multiple times? So I would say there is also some dereliction of duty over here from the side of the state as well. You cannot let somebody who is accused or involved in such serious matters walk out among the civilians. This is exactly how it will end up if you let somebody walk scot free who is involved in such serious crimes. So yeah, this policy of being this being a soft state, at least in union territories, should be abandoned by the abandoned by the national government and the national forces. Because if you are living in a territory that shares a geographical border with a sensitive area, and Pakistan is, to say the least, the border with Pakistan is obviously very sensitive. There are still areas in the state of Jammu and Kashmir where there are no police stations, where there are porous borders between the state of Pakistan and the state of Bharat. So unless and until you remedy these situations, you will keep on seeing these terrorist attacks, such dastardly and cowardly terrorist attacks. So yeah, the Indians, the state of Bharat does not seem to learn from its experiences, and yeah, things have to change. It cannot keep continuing like this. Okay, let's see what do we have here. Yes, okay. Let me again present it. So it should be pretty much visible to you. Yeah. Okay. So Bangladesh, Sylhet, and its neighboring districts have been facing flooding due to continuous heavy rainfall over the past 3 days. Yes, there are extensive rainfall in the parts of even West Bengal, Bangladesh, and even Sikkim, for that matter. So there are some heavy rainfalls going on in this part of the South Asian subcontinent. If you look, so there are multiple landslides, multiple floods going on. Yep, yep. You can see people are being displaced. It is very interesting. Okay, okay. There's this one piece of information. Cabinet approves development of Lal Bahadur Shastri International Airport, Varanasi, at a cost of 2869.65 crores. I would say all of you all, if you live in this part of the world, you obviously know Varanasi or Banaras or Kashi, as we like to fondly call it, is a city. It's that the oldest city with people living on it. So yes, Varanasi is getting an international airport. I know this is the beginning. It is just the approval of the project, and seeing actually tangible developments on ground will take some time. But this is a good move because it usually depends on the connectivity and accessibility of a town to promote its tourism. So if you're developing such logistics, you can see an upward footfall to such places, because tourists who come from other countries, other parts of the world, they usually view connectivity as a major hindrance to travel to such places in Bharat. So I would say yes, this is you know a very nice move. So it's going to cost somewhere close to 3000 crore, and naming of the airport is also apt, Lal Bahadur Shastri. There are many prime ministers that this country has had that have done fantastic job as the leader of the council of ministers, but they don't get their fair share of recognition. So yeah, that's that's it's a good it's good to see. There was also another decision from the cabinet to develop an all-weather greenfield deep draft major port at Vadwan in Maharashtra. So Maharashtra state, with a long coastline, obviously owes its major revenues to having multiple ports. All right, and cabinet has approved that yes, we are going to develop a deep draft major port in Maharashtra. So the total cost of development of that port is 76,200 crore. Yep. Let's see. It's an all-weather port. So again, it's just the beginning. They have just approved. Yep. Okay. The national seafood exports touch all-time high by volume in fiscal year 23-24. Okay, Bharat has shipped somewhere close to uh, 18 lakh metric tons of seafood worth 60,000 crores in the year 23-24. I would say this is good. I mean, seafood has been the staple diet. If you visualize the map of Bharat, and if you draw a line roughly slanting from Uttar Pradesh to this, for starting from the land of Uttar Pradesh to the land of Maharashtra, and if you draw that slant line, so people to the north of that slant line are considered to be majority vegetarians, while people to the south of that line are considered to be consuming meat. And a majority of them, you if you see the states of Odisha, Andhra Pradesh, and Tamil Nadu, Kerala, all these states that have a coastline, they usually have a population that consumes seafood as well. And owing to its large coastline, we have managed to touch somewhere close to $8 billion. That is somewhere close to 61,000 crores of seafood exports. I would say yes, this is a testament to the logistical development that we have. Because keep in mind that export of seafood involves a lot of preservation. You need a lot of refrigeration. You need a lot of ships that can carry these refrigerators in form of big containers. And so even if you are transporting it through aircrafts, air cargos, so those air cargos too must have some degree of refrigeration to preserve the quality of the seafood that we are exporting. So I would say yes, frozen shrimp remained the major export item in quantity and value, while USA and China became the major importers of seafood from Bharat. Okay, so the major importers of seafood from Bharat are USA and China. Now, it would be interesting to know that both these countries who are importing seafood from us, they themselves have, you know, large coastlines. China, I would say, up to a certain degree, is very close to Bharat. We do not need to have too much of spending on logistics to export these goods to China. But when it comes to USA, it's on the other side of the globe. So I would say yes, logistically, US and Bharat are very well connected. Okay. Let us see where this is going. Wait a minute. YouTube is an interesting platform. Next up, I really want you guys to see this. Let me put it up on the screen for you guys to see.
A group of US lawmakers met the Dalai Lama at his monastery in India on Wednesday. The delegation said
so
they
these
will
are
not
some
allow China to
delegates.
influence the choice of the exiled Tibetan
These are some
spiritual
delegates
leader's
from the
successor,
United
a
States,
comment that
members
will
of
likely anger Beijing.
members of
The
their
remarks
Senate.
come
I would
as
say
Washington
the
and
thing that they like
Beijing
to call it
seek
as
to steady
Congress.
rocky ties,
They
while
are on the
India
visit
pushes China
of
to secure lasting
city of
peace on their
Dharmashala, that is
disputed
situated in
Himalayan
Himachal Pradesh
frontier,
of Bharat.
4 years after a
And they are over
bloody border
here to
clash.
meet Dalai Lama. Dalai
Here's
Lama is the
Republican
spiritual leader of
Representative
Tibet,
Michael McCall.
and
So the
he has
Dalai
been
Lama
living in
knows
Bharat,
that this
the
is
town
not
of
true, that Tibet is
Dharmashala
part
of
of
Himachal
China.
Pradesh
And the people
to
of Tibet know
resist
that that is not
the
true.
illegal
And the
occupation
United
of
States
Tibet
of
by the
America
Chinese forces.
knows that that
So
is
during the
not
early
true.
decades of the 20th century, during the
But
I
it
would
is
say
still my hope that one day
the latter
the
part
Dalai
of the
Lama
20th
and his
century,
people will
that is during the
return
60s
to
and the
their home
70s.
in Tibet in
The
peace.
relations between
The 88-year-old Dalai Lama
Bharat
fled
and
to
China were
India
not
in
very cordial, and one of the
1959
reasons was
after a
because it
failed
was Dalai Lama who
uprising
had come
against
over
Chinese
here to
rule
seek
in Tibet.
refuge.
The
And
question
obviously,
of
we
his
had granted
successor
him
has been a
refugee
thorny
status. We
issue.
had granted him
Tibetan
political
tradition
asylum
holds
on
that the Dalai
humanitarian grounds. So
Lama
he
is
lives here ever
reincarnated
since.
after his death,
All right.
and the
And due to
current
this,
leader has said his
foreign
successor
policy
may be
of China
found
has
in
been
India.
to
Beijing has
discredit
said
everything
the
that Dalai
tradition
Lama
must
does
continue,
in the
but
land
its
of Bharat.
officially
And
atheist
so
communist
very
leaders
recently, these
have the
US
right to
lawmakers are over
approve the
here to
successor
speak with
as
him.
a
And keep in
legacy
mind, Dalai Lama
inherited
is
from
also going to
China's
visit United
emperors.
States for
Analysts said
some of
it highlights
his
the
medical
power and
conditions.
influence of the
So
role
what has been put
fueling
out in the media
Beijing's
is he's
tussle to
having some
control
problems
it.
in his
The
knees, and
US
he's going to get a
lawmaker
knee
said
surgery in the
President Joe
States.
Biden would soon sign a
Okay.
bill aiming to
So
press
China views
China to
this
resolve
as
the
China
Tibet
views
dispute. The bill
Tibet
seeks to
as
push
part of
China
its
to
own
hold
territory,
talks with Tibetan
whereas
leaders
Dalai Lama,
and
the
secure a
spiritual head,
negotiated agreement on
who I
Tibet.
would say who
Although
has
Washington
some
recognizes
degree of
Tibet as a
legitimacy to
part of
speak on the
China,
behalf
the
of
bill
people of
appears
Tibet,
to
he
question
says that
that
he does not
position.
So
recognize
this
this
Resolve Act
Ken
then
Balzeri, the political
Chinese
leader of the exiled
Chinese
Tibetan
influence and
government,
Chinese
said the
overtaking of
congressional
Tibet.
approval of the bill
So
was a
yeah, these
significant
people have been living
breakthrough
in exile, running
and
a
believed
government in
it would
exile
put
from the
pressure
town
on
of
Beijing
Dharamshala
to
since the last
negotiate.
40, 50 years, I would say. And the US lawmakers that have come here, they have come out with a statement that, you know, we will not let China dictate, okay, will not let China to influence the choice of his successor. So the current Dalai Lama is the name of the post that this gentleman is occupying right now. In the future, there is going to be another Dalai Lama, and there is this dispute between both the countries, both Tibet and China, about who exactly is going to be the successor, the spiritual head of Tibet. Obviously, China would want something who is pro Beijing, and the current Dalai Lama has maintained the status that China has no locus standi when appointing the spiritual head. So yeah, it would be interesting to see how you know what the future has in its store for Tibet. So let's see. Okay, all of you all obviously are aware of NATO, that is North Atlantic Treaty Organization. For those of you who don't know, NATO is a it's a military alliance between the countries of the West, led by United States of America, and the Secretary General of NATO, that is Jens Stoltenberg. Uh, he has made some statements. So the crux of that statement is the need to expand cooperation between the Western military alliance and partners in the Indo-Pacific region. So if you view this in the backdrop of the statements that if you view this in the backdrop of the current events that are going on in the South China Sea, between there are naval conflicts going on between Philippines and China. There are conflicts going on between Indonesian Navy and China as well. And even very recently, there were some naval adventurism attempts that were made by both the sides between Taiwan and China, and even Japan and China. So if you see the Indo-Pacific region on the map, you see uh, United States is looking for it's looking with a very close eye. It's keeping a very close eye in this part of the water body, because the United States knows. Okay, so if you are to dominate the logistical structures in this part of the world, that is Asia, and up to Southeast Asia, East Asia, and for that matter Russia as well. And keep in mind also that the West has some vested interest to keep Russia in check when it is talking about Indo-Pacific region as well, because the more leeway that you give to China, the better the better abilities it will have to help Russia as well. So yes, he has stressed that the Western military alliance, and there has to be some cooperation between NATO and partners in the Indo-Pacific region. So let's see what comes out of this. Okay, next up is okay. Let me present this so it becomes clear. Yep. Okay. National Highway Authority of India to enhance green cover along national highways with Miyawaki plantations. All right. So it's, I would say, yeah, they are focusing more on the greener aspect, the greener side of the things. If you focus your attention over here, Miyawaki plantations is a unique Japanese approach to ecological restoration and afforestation development. This method aims to create dense, native, biodiverse forests in a short period of time. These forests retain groundwater and help to recharge the groundwater table. I would say, yeah. So it's these plants, these Japanese plants, they are easy to plant, easy to maintain, and they would help to restore the ecological balance by restoring the groundwater levels. Yep. Okay, next up is at least 9 killed at Rohingya camps and rain triggered landslides. Yeah. Next up is Mexico taps Switzerland. Mexico taps Switzerland to run diplomatic work in Ecuador after relations were cut. Okay, so get this. Um, Ecuador is a country in the, you know, I would say it is a country in the South American continent, and Mexico is a country in the Latin American part of the North American continent. So very recently there was this raid. Okay, it was this raid that was taken by the National Armed Forces of Ecuador on the Mexican embassy over there. So usually these embassies and these consulates, they are guarded and protected under the Geneva Convention of the United Nations. Not that all the countries adhere to these principles mentioned in these conventions, but yeah, there is some legal underpinning when we say that the consulates and embassies of countries, they are protected on foreign territories. So very recently, Ecuador, the army of Ecuador, they raided. I'm sorry, police of the Ecuador, they raided Mexican embassy in Quito. Quito is the capital city of Ecuador. Yep. Uh, so they undertook this raid because they wanted to arrest the former vice president Jorge Glass of Mexico. He has been allegedly accused of being involved in corruption charges. So he was hiding, or he was taking refuge in the Mexican embassy in Ecuador. But the Ecuadorian police force, they raided the embassy, and now Mexico has decided to cut diplomatic ties with Ecuador. But it has entrusted Switzerland with the responsibility of carrying on its diplomatic functions in Ecuador. So, yep. So, under the deal announced on Tuesday, Switzerland will protect, represent, and exercise the Mexican government's diplomatic and consular activities in Ecuador. Okay, okay. Mhm. The statement stressed that the agreement does not include any request to mediate the differences between the two nations stemming from the raid. So, yeah, they have made it abundantly clear that obviously this is not a mediation request. This is just to, make the process of cutting diplomatic ties very smooth, and ensure that even if there is some iota of possibility of restoring diplomatic ties, it is done to proper channels. At least you have an option to go through to go through the mediums to restore these ties. So yeah, Switzerland is acting as a facilitator for Mexico. Next up is again the same dynamic, the US China dynamic. Now, United States wants Netherlands and Japan to further restrict chip making equipment to China. Okay, we have discussed this in multiple of our live streams in the past that China has a major industrial overcapacity. Okay. Now, semiconductor chips are a good that are used in many things that we use these days, starting from laptops to computers and ending at even military missiles. So semiconductor chips uh, uh, are a necessary good if you want to do things these days, be it something on a computer or be it launching of a missile on enemy. So keep in mind that very recently there was a missile that was recovered in Ukraine, and Ukrainians have alleged that the Russian missile that they have recovered has come from North Korea, and United States is operating under the assumption that it is China that is providing these technologies to Russia and North Korea. So Netherlands, there is a company in Netherlands that is the biggest. Let me just pull up its name. Yes, ASML. The name of that company is ASML. Is the world's biggest cheap chip equipment maker by sales and market capitalization. It is located in the United States, in Denmark, in Netherlands. In here, United States has made a request, or there was a meeting between the officials of Japan and the Dutch government, okay, to restrict China's ability to produce cutting edge semiconductors. So obviously they are placing some restrictions, and day by day it is increasing. Earlier it was uh, some other thing. They are the European Union is placing some higher tariffs on electronic vehicles that are being imported from China. So I guess the West are operating under the assumption and a conviction that China is indeed helping Russia to circumvent those sanctions. And the West, left with no options, they are now adopting an increasingly harder stance on China, because they think that in turn it will affect Russia as well. So yep. Here, so there is a response from the Chinese Foreign Ministry, and the response was by a Foreign Ministry spokesperson named Lin Jian, and he said that China was opposed to the United States coercing other countries and suppressing China's semiconductor industry. This behavior has seriously hindered the development of global semiconductor industry and will eventually backfire. Obviously they are adopting a stance regular with their own benefits. Okay, the United States first imposed restrictions in 2022 on shipments of advanced chips and chip making equipment to China from companies including California based Nvidia. Now you might think, why exactly is United States instructing Netherlands to do these things? What, why exactly, why would Netherlands and Japan listen to United States on something that they are manufacturing in their own country? Okay, okay. So the reason is that many of the semiconductor manufacturing plants that are located in Netherlands, they are using technology that was developed in the United States. So the manufacturing of semiconductor chips in Netherlands is being undertaken with the aid and help of the technology that was developed in United States. Yep. But something that is very interesting to know over here is they do have some service agreements in place. So the semiconductor chips that are already been handed over to China as part of an export treaty that they have, the service contracts are still in place. I would say that that channel is still important for further maneuvering, and let's see what comes out of this. Yep. So they want to restrict the semiconductor industry. They do not want proliferation of the sensitive technology that is manufacturing of semiconductor chips. Yep. So let's see what comes out of these. This was something that did not make very much sense. It's not in resonance with the ongoing narrative about the Ukraine and how the Western nations are rallying behind Ukraine and its support to its resistance towards Russian military attacks. So this is a headline: European Union to impose tariffs on Ukrainian eggs in import curbs. So, the Europeans don't want eggs from Ukraine. This just goes on to prove that, you might be subscribing or you might be endorsing some of the causes on a global level, but it is in the end that self interest that trumps all. Okay. So, yeah, they have raised the tariffs. So when usually if there is one country that is raising tariffs on some goods that are being imported by a foreign country, it is obviously to protect its own native industries. Because what usually tends to happen is if there is a country out there who is exporting goods at a very cheaper rate, even cheaper than the rates that the native companies are cheaper than the what native companies are selling it for, then obviously these goods will be a hot favorite among the consumers, and yeah, it will be a big blow to the native companies. So yes, European Union has introduced tariffs on Ukrainian eggs. They don't want Ukrainian eggs anymore. Okay. The European Union has set limits for certain agricultural imports from Ukraine after free trade access granted to help the country's economy following Russia's Ukraine has angered farmers and contributed to a wave of protests. Yes, so this is it. The European Union has imposed some tariffs on Ukraine. Keep in mind that it is European Union that has been very fervently pushing forward this agenda of supporting Ukraine. There are European countries, Slovenia, for example, Spain, for another, that have recognized this Palestinian cause, and they are more leaning towards the left liberal ideology. They are supporting Ukraine and this Russia Ukraine conflict. And keep in mind also that in in the very recent past, they have come up with this idea of using the Russian assets that they have sealed as part of the sanctions, using those assets and interest accrued from those assets to fund a loan, to extend a loan to Ukraine to buy weapons. Yeah, I would say. So that these are like, they are not mincing words, obviously. The Europe and the United States are obviously all out in their opposition to Russia. Yep. Next up is, I guess this is a conflict that has continued, and this would also see how these countries change sides when time comes, because there are these two countries, Armenia and Azerbaijan, and very recently they had fought this war, and now they both the countries are definitely working towards a peace treaty. But the country of France has promised to supply Armenia with some howitzers, some self-propelled howitzers. So howitzers are they are military guns, some sort of a slingshot cannon, so they can be used on mountainous terrain. And yep. So for those of you who don't know, Armenia and Azerbaijan have been in a conflict since many years, and the source of that conflict is their bordering areas. There are some areas on the border that are claimed by Azerbaijan, and there were previously under the sovereignty of Armenia. So yeah. Let's see what comes out of. Well, keep in mind any country that is miffed with either of the camps. Okay, let's say if there is a country that is miffed with Russia, so that country is more likely to go towards the Western camp. So you could still see that the world is indeed still up to a large extent bipolar, because if you are not in the Russian camp, then you have to end up in the camp of the West, that is Western European countries and United States. Or if you are not in that camp, you end up in the Russia China camp, I would say. All right, okay, that's it for today, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.